We're here in Birmingham at the National Motorcycle Museum. We're going to speak with James and find out about a few of the bikes here today. And then we've got a raffle bike, which I'm going to put the details in the description for. So you enter, you never know, you might win. So let's go meet James. Come on. Right, we're at the National Motorcycle Museum. We're with James. Thank you for joining us.
No problem at all. Good to see you.
And we're going to start off today with the Wooler.
The Wooler, yeah.
500cc.
Yeah, unusual in its design, as we've seen.
Couple of questions for this one.
Yeah.
The headlight, is it hard to change?
No, because it's just a conventional. If you ignore all that structure there, that's just a conventional rim, which just comes off like any other rim on a headlamp.
Yeah.
So yeah, really easy. It doesn't look like it's easy, but no, it's quite conventional.
What year did we stop having?
Front number plates. Well, you know what? We've just been having this discussion, and we've decided that it was about 1975, because we've got some mid-70s Triumph triples, 74, 75L N reg with them on, and then after N, so we think 75. And that was all to do with legislation around safety, because obviously if you think about it,
yeah,
could be a bit of a bacon slice, you know,
yeah,
bit of a knife on the front of your bike. So really, you can see why they did away with it now. So about 75, yeah.
Right. Headlight and forks.
Yeah.
Are in the tank.
Yeah.
Does this produce any fuel leaks at all?
No, well, they're not actually in the tank itself, because all this is sort of a blank assembly. The tank is welded up behind that assembly.
So it's basically like a normal tank on there.
Yeah.
Encased.
That's it. You've got to think of that as two separate structures, really.
Right.
The tank itself towards the back, and then sort of a separate structure there with a wall between it. So it is actually, although it looks like one, it is actually two.
Right. Last question on this Wooler.
Yeah.
Was this bike built for racing, or just a statement?
Well, Woolers? No, certainly not for. They weren't noted for their sporting prowess. As you can see, they're quite sort of. It's a touring bike, and a lot of the Woolers you would think of them as touring bikes, and not as sporty really. But they always had that flat engine design, and more often than not that unusual tank. And that was their statement. So I suppose, would you call it a statement? You'd call it their statement, their difference, because a lot of bikes around that time, really well, this could be said of any era, but a lot of bikes around that time, they look pretty much exactly the same. The black, the gold, with gold lining, conventional saddle tank, or when they moved to dual seats, they all look pretty similar. And so I think statement's probably a good word. I think it was Wooler's difference. Yeah. Wooler's difference, let's say that.
It is different.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll head off and find the next bike.
Okay, let's go.
Right, the BSA 810.
810.
Right, a couple of questions on this one for you. How did this end up at the museum?
These bikes, some of these police bikes, of which we've got a few, AA bikes, ambulance bikes and what have you, ambulance service bikes. These have been in the museum since the museum started, and we're going back to the early 80s. And so when the museum started, Roy, the founder, Roy Richards, we can talk about Roy a little bit separately, but Roy wanted bikes that were very representative of what the British industry had produced. And BSA, of course, was the largest manufacturer of motorcycles in the world for a long time, until the demise in the early 70s. And as such, they sold a lot of police bikes. They sold a lot of bikes to the police, a lot of these 650 twins, etc., 500s before that. Very, very big supply to the police and the armed forces, indeed. And so all these police bikes came into the museum actually in the early 80s when it opened as being very representative of what the industry and indeed BSA had done.
Yeah. Would this be used for TV and film?
We do hire on occasion bikes out to TV. not done it for a little while, but we get sort of asked by all sorts of people. For example, last year at Goodwood Revival, we hired some bikes to Ralph Lauren, the clothing company, and so yeah, bikes like this, particularly the police bikes, or the working bikes as we call them, or the military bikes, that happens quite a lot. We do hire them out, yeah.
Do you know which police service is served?
The police service?
It was with. Was it like Derbyshire, West Midlands?
Oh, which, yeah. This one, I believe, was somewhere down south. I think it might have been Dorset.
But you've got to say, it's a brilliant bike, and it brings back the 1960s.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't argue with it.
No, that's right. If you look at some of the period detail, like the radio, or it's not like a handset for the radio, but it's like as you'll see, it's a television, a telephone receiver.
Yeah.
It's very, very period, yeah. And of course, a lot of visitors. These bring back a lot of memories, and we get a lot of ex-police guys in, a lot of ex-forces guys for the military bikes. It really brings back a lot of memories for them.
Which is always good, and I just hope you keep something as beautiful as this in the museum for years to come. Yeah,
and of course it's a movable feast. So in another one of the halls, we've got a London ambulance service Nortan from the 1990s, a Nortan Rotary, and so things keep moving
we'll
on.
See later on.
Yeah, things keep moving on.
Yep. So right, we'll go find the next bike.
Brilliant.
Right, it's a Brockhouse Corgi.
The Brockhouse Corgi, what a great thing.
Is it Corgis in Corgi toys?
No, completely different. Yeah.
I had to ask that because you see the name Corgi.
Yeah, it makes you think, yeah.
Yes, little die-cast toys, and what doesn't help is, if I step to the side, the size of it compared to a normal bike.
Yeah. Well, do you know where it came from, the idea?
Go on.
So, it was a colonel in the war, Colonel Dolphin, and he was asked to design, as part of his job, a folding motorcycle based mainly for paratroopers that could be dropped with the paratroopers in canisters, and in fact we've got one. And they were called the Well bike. And back in Hall 2 we've got one in its original parachute canister, and they were dropped with parachute troops into the theatre of war, into the field, so they could get easy transport around, and they were a folding motorcycle. And after the war, 1946, the design was actually sold to Brockhouse, which were kind of a general engineering firm, really, for civilian use. And I suppose what you could liken them to now, perhaps, is like the Honda Monkey bikes.
Yep.
Very early sort of version of that. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything's been done before, and so you could almost think of them in look and style and size and everything else, a bit like a Honda Monkey bike. And so that's where the idea, it was actually a wartime design, which was later sold to civilians.
Well, you've already answered one of my questions. About it folding, and yes it does.
Yeah.
Right. How many of these are still around, do we know?
Not so many. If we think about the well bikes in particular, the wartime bikes, they're quite rare and they're quite valuable now. And indeed, ours, which you can probably get some shots of, ours is very rare because it's in the parachute, still in its original parachute canister, and of course most of those, the bikes were taken out of the parachute canisters. And the canisters discarded, but ours is an interesting story with it, which does very much relate to this bike and what what happened to the well bikes, how they became Brockhouse Corgis. But ours was actually dropped into the banks of the River Rhine, into the mud, and was discovered many years after the war, perfectly preserved because it had not been opened.
Yeah.
And so we've got one of the very few ones with its original parachute and with its original canister, because simply it parachuted into it and boop, straight into the mud of the banks of the River Rhine. And so it was an interesting story. It's an interesting precursor to what the well bike became, which was the Brockhouse Corgi.
Thank you. That is an absolute silly bike.
Awesome, eh?
I want one.
It's not always the biggest ones that are the most interesting, you see.
I bet you can have some fun on that.
Yeah.
Right, let's find the next bike.
Next one.
Right, the Nortan Commander 588cc.
58cc twin rotor, rotary engine, yeah.
Yep, worked for London Ambulance Service.
It did, actually. It was donated directly from the London Ambulance Service. They had a museum, would you believe, which closed, and they asked us if we wanted one of the bikes, which we did. That was very kind of them. And so this has been in the museum now 12 or 13 years, and it came directly from the London Ambulance Service Museum, as was. Yeah, interesting bike in as much as, you know, we were talking earlier about working bikes and how it's a movable feast and we have to keep updating things. And so, whilst this is by no means the newest bike we've got in the museum, it just shows you how the museum is moving forward into the 1990s and the 2000s, because we've now got bikes from the 2000s as well, and indeed from the last decade as well. So everything has to keep moving forward.
Yes. Do you know what equipment this would carry? Because obviously you can't carry someone to hospital on it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you've got quite big panniers and what have you. So these paramedic bikes, I mean, normally nowadays you tend to see more paramedics in cars, don't you? Fast response cars, but you could get quite a lot of sort of very basic first responder, if you like, kit in them, and that's what they were used for, especially in around London with the traffic. Ideal to get somewhere quickly to sort of get on with the job of saving somebody's life until you know, sort of more facilities turned up. But Nortan, the company as it was then, and of course Norton's had many incarnations over the years. It's been up and bust and up and bust and up and bust, and now resurgent again under new ownership, TVS from India. But at that time it was they were still produced in Shenston, not far north from here, near Lichfield, and they did, to be fair, sell quite a lot of bikes, and we were talking about this earlier, but they did sell quite a lot of bikes to the police. The police had the rotaries, ambulance service had the rotaries, I think the fire service had some, the military had some, so it was quite a good line of business for Nortan at that time, selling these rotary engine bikes to the various services. I think the RAC, I'm not sure about the AA, but I'm sure the RAC had some as well, yeah.
I said it about the police BSA earlier, TV and film. Would this ever go out for it?
We've not had this one running. We've not, no, it's as it came in. And of course you have to be a bit careful running things like this because it's still all in its original kit. So probably not one to necessarily take out on the road, because happily it's very original and it's still got its blues and twos fitted. Yeah.
Would they still work, do you think, if you put the battery up?
Yeah, I mean it's like any bike that's been standing. I mean, a lot of the bikes in the museum run and can be made to run quickly, but it's like anything if it's left. It's usual things like carburetors and what have you that you have to go through, but I suspect it wouldn't be more than a couple of hours job to get it up and running. And that's true of most of the bikes in the museum, because they came in running or they were restored to run, and we do keep a lot of the bikes running anyway for various reasons, so it wouldn't be too hard for our lads.
Yeah, from what I've heard, the workshop here is second to none.
Yeah.
Right, let's find the next one.
Next one.
Right, Copper Knob.
Copper Knob, one of the most famous and indeed interesting bikes in the museum, I would say. You've picked a good one.
Yeah, it stands out.
It does stand out.
So you can't not feature it. Right, built in 1929.
Yeah, to by some garage owners from Highgate in London, the Bickle brothers. Went through various incarnations in its time, because of course the great proving ground for motorcycles back then was Brooklands, the bank circuit at Brooklands, and there was all sorts of records that you could take there, and that was a big thing for both manufacturers and individuals personally.
Yeah.
And this was built not by manufacturers stuff, but by individuals that wanted to break records. Yeah.
What cc is it?
This incarnation was a 500cc engine, Jap engine. Did really well in this particular this particular incarnation, taking some records at Brooklands in the early 30s. Yeah.
Is it actually copper or copper plated?
Copper plated. Yeah, it is copper plated, because of course if it was copper it'd be weak. It'd be like your central heating pipes. They'd bend pretty easy. So yeah, copper plated. And what a beautiful thing, and what a head turn, and what a way to sort of promote yourself.
Yeah, and to find yourself looking at it, it's stunning.
Yeah, take some cleaning.
No thanks, I'll leave that to you.
Yeah.
I haven't got that much polish.
Polish, yeah. We have a big team of volunteers here at the museum. There's about nearly 40 of them now. They come once every 2 weeks and they blitz the museum, and that's why we do get so many positive comments from visitors saying, wow, how can we keep everything so clean? It must be a big job. And that is solely thanks to our 40 odd volunteers.
Yeah.
They're absolutely wonderful. Couldn't do without them.
You can't.
Couldn't do without them.
One thing about the name, where did it come from, Copper Knob?
Copper Knob, where did that come from? Well, that's a good question. And I have absolutely no idea.
Very cool. But you stand here looking at it, and it's got little bits like this, which I'm not sure what I'll do actually.
Oh, steering damper.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it literally clamps you. It's a clamp in simple terms. And where you have steering dampers now that are hydraulic rods, people you would be used to seeing, that literally tightens the head races there, and so it makes it tighter and tighter to move. So it's a steering damper. Just a simple clamp that tightens the steering.
Yep, brilliant. It's the last bike of the day. We've got a few general questions aimed at yourself.
Yeah.
Have you got a favourite bike in the museum?
Yeah, I have, and it's not far from here.
Ooh.
So have a look?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's your favourite bike in the museum?
Yeah, it's a question I guess both me and our restoration team get asked quite often. We've all got a personal favourite, but this would definitely have to be my personal favourite, yeah. 1992 senior TT winning Nortan, the White Charger. Steve Hislop, the late Steve Hislop, won the senior TT on this bike in a sort of I guess it was a giant killing story. So briefly, and it's a story many people know, but against the might of the works Yamaha ridden by Carl Fogarty, one of the greatest riders ever, great TT rider, 4-time World Superbike champion, in a very, very close race. Steve Hislop had been given this bike to ride right at the last minute. He hadn't got a ride that year at the TT, and he was a great TT rider, but for one reason or another he hadn't got a ride that year. And so this bike was cobbled together towards the end of that incarnation of the Nortan factory. They got no money, they got no sponsorship. By the time it went over to the Isle of Man, it was pretty much just a white fairing. They got sponsorship at the last minute, primarily from Abbas, the Lock people. Hence the name the White Charger, because there was very few, in comparison to these days, very few sponsors. They all came in at the last minute. Not a bike, it would be unfair to say a bike lashed up in a shed, because it's by no means a lash up, but it was not, it hadn't got the backing of like a full factory, like you can imagine the backing.
Like these Nortons just here?
Yeah, where they got a lot of JPS sponsorship money. This was really kind of on a shoestring, and not only on a shoestring, but at the last minute, and against all the odds, and that's where this giant killing thing comes in. It was a giant killing story. And of course Norton, by then, 1992, they hadn't won anything on the Isle of Man really since, you know, the 1960s, so a good few decades before. And so you can imagine, Norton had been massively successful at the TT, you know, from the first TT 1907 right through to the 1960s, and then pretty much nothing. And so it was a name, Norton was a name that was and still is inexorably linked to the TT, and after all those years of nothing, came back on a shoestring, won it. And so what a great story. So great story, fantastic bike. I've been privileged, absolutely privileged to ride it a few times. There's such a beautiful thing to ride as well, so tractable, the engine, for, you know, people that think it was, you know, some people think they're very peaky like a two-stroke or not, and you know, people say, well, what's the engine like? Is it like a four-stroke or like a two-stroke? And anybody that's ridden one would always say, well, neither, they're like a rotary. Yeah. And they're very different to either, but they're very, very tractable. Beautiful thing, definitely my favourite bike in the museum, 100%. Love it, gonna kiss it.
How many bikes in the museum have you ridden?
That's a question. I suppose number-wise, I guess different ones over the years, 12, 13 years. I suppose it would be in the low hundreds, but I've ridden quite, again, privileged, because the thing about the museum that people have to remember is we're not a static museum, we use the bikes a lot. Yeah. For instance, talking of which, 1 week ago we were at Goodwood Festival of Speed. This bike was running on the track, so we're a very live museum. Yeah. We're not a dry, dusty, dead place. You know, motorcycles, what a great subject for a museum, because they were born to run, they were born to be seen, they were born to, you know, to people to hear them, to smell them. And so we're lucky with the subject matter, because it lends itself really well to their natural environment, to run them in their natural environment. So we get the best of both worlds with the National Motorcycle Museum, because they can be seen, and then they can also be seen back in the natural environment. Yeah. And so I've ridden a lot of the race bikes in Hall 5 here over the years, by no means all, because we haven't run them all. No. But we do keep a hard core of race bikes running, and the rotaries in particular are so popular, they're always being asked for. And so I guess I've probably ridden every one of the rotaries, and a good example being back in 2015, we took them all over to the Classic TT for a sort of a rotary anniversary parade. Yeah. Because obviously they've done very well on the Isle of Man over the years. This one, the black JPS bikes with people like Robert Dunlop. And we ran all the 15 works bikes in one go, which was a massive undertaking, but that just illustrates what we do as a museum. Yeah. That illustrates, I think, perfectly what we're about.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good to see you, man.
And you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.